Well, welcome to My Life in Football, Series 4. And of course, we're back again for another show, and really pleased to say that joining me today from Bury Town is Paul Musgrove. How are we, Paul?
Good morning. How are you? Yeah, all good so far today.
Yeah, I was going to say, you must be absolutely buzzing. I mean, it's finally happened for the club and up into step three.
Yeah, it's just over a week now, and I've sort of yeah, feel like I've come down from cloud nine a little bit. It's a little bit last week coming back to work after bank holiday and all the celebrations. It felt like you've been on a really good holiday and you were just on the come down again. So yeah, no, it's been a good 10 days.
Happy days. So, I mean, the club itself, though, I mean, they're all on a high and ready to go, even though it's only a week away.
Yeah, the club's in a really good spot anyway, in terms of ground gradings and everything like that. So, undoubtedly there'll be some bits that they've got to do, but they're in a really good spot. So I think they're embracing it. Um, I personally feel that Bury should be a step-free club with the town as it is. I think I've said before, it's a really affluent town and it's got a really good rugby club playing at a really good level, and the football club should be matching that, and if not better in it.
Hmm. So, where are you expecting to be as a club? I mean, are you expecting to find yourself in the Eastern Prem, or are you expecting to find yourself in the Southern League next year?
I think it will be the Southern League from indications, but again, we don't know outside the FA what they're thinking, do we? They like to have a good shuffle around, and you get these decisions where sometimes you're shocked by how they've shuffled around and how a league is made up. So um, I think we'll embrace whichever way it goes. It'd be nice to go away from the A12 area for a bit of a break, if I'm honest, but wherever we go, we'll give it a really good go, and hopefully, we'll acquit ourselves really well at step three.
So, Northern Premier League Midlands division, then, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think they were planning on getting a helicopter.
But Paul, as we always do, I mean, literally, I mean, tell us. I mean, if we go back to the very beginning, I mean, tell us how a young Paul got involved in this crazy world of football in the first place. I mean, was it school, and was it through just sort of like going with your mates and playing for like a Saturday team? I mean, how did it all start off for you, or did you play at all?
Yeah, no, it's really weird, really. I've got two older brothers. Um, so from a really young age, I used to see them kicking a ball around. So I kind of latched onto them as the youngest does. And I'd started early at primary school age, and I was always fortunate enough to be pushed along because I latched onto older groups of lads that at that age. Um, so yeah, I just started like that, and I was really really fortunate that my primary school head teacher, he would drag me out of classes to make up the numbers to go and play an older age group. So I'd be sitting there in lessons thinking, God, I hope he comes and gets me today. And lo and behold, there I would be playing with lads 2 or 3 years older than me. So that was really where I got it from. Um, and again, like most people, just went through, enjoying your football with your friends, had a really good group of friends, and they were really talented as football as well. Um, and then I went into weekend football away from school football. So I was playing Saturdays and mostly Sundays for a local team. And again, it was all mates. It was all people that I played at school with. And again, most people that are come and speak to you, they were, we won a lot of things. And that was the time when Ipswich, again, they would go out and look at local games. And I had an Ipswich scout called Tony Dable. He came and watched one of our games on a Sunday and went and spoke to my parents on the sideline and said, "Would he like to come into Ipswich and train at the School of Excellence?"
And what was that? Well, I mean, what was that like, Paul? I mean, playing just normal with your mates, and then all of a sudden, I mean, you see an Ips, or your parents tell you. I don't know if you actually saw the scat go over to your parents, but I mean, what would that have been like, for a young Paul, just sort of seeing that going on, and you think, oh, this is Ipswich, like.
Yeah, it's really weird, really, because never at all was there any conversation. about that progression or step. It wasn't something that I'd been in and around and it had happened to other people that I'd spoken to at the time. So it was a little bit daunting, but to be honest with you, at the time, I think I did take it in my step. I never thought I was that much better than the lads around me. To be honest with you, it wasn't something that ever occurred to me. So yeah, it was a big step. It was quite a big step for my parents at the time because of the commitment. You were sort of training Tuesday and Thursdays, playing Sundays, and in the end, you had to go away from playing, with your mates. You had to sort of leave that team and go and play for Ipswich Town School of Excellence, which again, yeah, it was something that I made another set of mates through, and I'm still friends with them today. So even from that young age, it was all about who you were with and the time you had together.
How hard was that though? Because I mean that rule in where you can't play with your mates, you've got to just play for the pro team as such. I mean, that must have been difficult for you to get your head round. Why can't I play with my mates?
Yeah, you kind of got your school time, and then you got your Suffolk schools, um, at West Suffolk, and then you've got your county. So still got a little bit of a playtime with your friends at a really good standard, and yeah, it was just surreal, really. If I'm honest, when I look back at it, it was I think I did an article on it years ago when I finished playing about how you're quite institutionalized when you go into a school of excellence as it was then. It's totally structured different from where it is now. You had to sort of log everything you were doing, all the games you played. So it was, it really was a different setup to how it was now.
What was that like though for you, going in that first day going into there? I mean, was it a bit of an eye opener for you with the
It's
facilities?
character building,
Mm.
very much character building. When you look back at it now and think as a young man, you're sort of going into these changing rooms with a lot of far talented players than myself that you would, you'd be sitting in there and it was a long journey, really, when I look at it now. And like I said, when I say institutionalized, it was like how it made you, like the ethics that they installed in you, the discipline you had to have at a young age, not only when you were training there, but when you went away from it, the training and the weaknesses you had to try and work on away from to make sure that you stayed in. At the end of each year, you were told if you were staying again.
Well,
And
What,
again,
what, what age was you when you went into there, Paul?
so I was 9 when I went in, and I was 16, nearly 17 when I came out. So it was a long part of my life where you were following a lot of routines and picking up a lot of good habits, some not so good habits. And again, you've come across some really talented individuals with, from all different backgrounds as well. So yeah, really good. Like I said, it's probably kept me in good stead all my life, really.
Mm. So, any players in there that you played with that one you still in touch with today, and two that people out here may know that you were in there with at a young age?
Yeah, no, we had some, there's some really good lads that I'm in touch with still. We sort of still have a lot of banter between us, either over social media or when you come across them. So I made some really good friends. But probably the one that stands out was Richard Logan. He's from Bury St Edmunds as well. Really good friend of mine. Obviously, he went on and played really, really well in the leagues. So scored a lot of goals. Great character. Exceptional on a night out as well. So yeah, just that again, lifelong friends that you've made. And like I said, there's other, there's a lad called Adam Miller. He went on to play for QPR, played for Canvey Island, went on his way back down. But all really, really strong individuals with great talent.
Funny stories you've got then that you're able to tell us, shall we say?
Well, we again, when you're that much younger, you travel around on various minibuses and things like that. So there was always, as you got older and a bit more confident, if once you've been there sort of 2 or 3 years, you felt, an established member of the group. But we used to get a lot of trialists come down. We had a chap called Colin Suggett. He used to be head of the academy, and he used to bring a lot of northern lads down because he was from Newcastle way. And we were sat in the change room one day, and they said, "Right, this certain individual, he's not going to be here for a little while, but when he does come in, we don't want you saying anything to him, because basically he's run off with his school teacher." So that was sort of red rag to a bull to a group of young lads with a lot of testosterone flying around, thinking that we were sort of 14, 15 at the time, and he's run off with his actual teacher from school. And it was on the front of the Sun newspaper, and it was basically said that he laid back and thought of England when he was with her because he thought he was going to play for England. Anyway, so when eventually he did decide he was going to come back in after all the storm in the teacup had come back, we had our tracksuits on, and when we all took our tracksuit tops off, we all had England tops on underneath. So as far as we didn't say anything, it was sort of that, that we were told we couldn't say anything, but actually we said a million words with just our England top on.
What was his reaction?
He was quite a comical lad, to be fair to him, so it was all right after a little while, but we did get a severe telling off. Got told our contracts would be ripped up if we carried on.
So I mean, you're in there with all these players. I mean, what sort of games were you playing? What teams were you playing? Just so people know in that sort of area, even at that
Yeah,
age.
so we were playing all over. We were obviously playing your local ones with Norwich, Peterborough, Colchester. We would go down to play Arsenal, Millwall, Tottenham. So it was all, anywhere just further on than the A12 really. Watford. So again, you go into these places, and actually when and sometimes we were actually sharing change rooms with them because we're training on, we're playing on training grounds, and it was really, I look at it now and think, sometimes we go down there and get a complete mauling because they were that much more hungry than us at times. I think we were really well looked after, but I still think there's even you get it at non-league sometimes when you go down and think, well, you might have talent, but talent doesn't beat hard work when talent doesn't work. So I think there's a massive that was, quite evident when we were younger.
Hmm. Are you one of those people that sits at the TV and with the family and goes, "Oh, I played against him."
Uh, yeah, I do sometimes. I try not to. I try not to. But Joe Cole at West Ham was one that sticks in my mind. We played down at their training ground, and yeah, even then, Jesus, he was so good, so good, and he stood out an absolute country mile.
Crazy stuff, is even at that age.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, real talent, and like I said, there was times in games where you were just trying to get near him, let alone tackle him.
So what was it like then when you say going through that sort of academy sort of process, and I'm assuming it's every year or every couple of years you get called in the office to let know if you're going to be staying on for the following year, and you're doing quite well, you're staying on, you're staying on, you're staying on. What was it like? Did you have any inkling that when you got to 16 that was going to be the end of it for you, and was you sort of looking elsewhere as well to try and make sure you got some kind of a job outside just in case stuff didn't actually come off?
No, well, again, years rolled on, and you get like say you would get a yearly review, or you get your 2-year deal, and it was going really reasonably well. I did have an approach halfway through at 15 from Norwich, and it was never really a consideration for me. I'd always been, blue through and through. I thought I'd stay loyal, which is a huge part of my personality, and so it was a shock when I got to it. I thought I had a bit of blow at the, it's a horrendous blow at the time. My mum passed away when I was 15, 16 as well at the very time. So it was all kind of a blur. I didn't see it coming because I'd actually been told I was going to get a YTS from Paul Goddard. My dad was, so we kind of felt quite comfortable at the time. And these things happen. And I hadn't, to be honest with you, I hadn't, like most children. At that age, I hadn't done greatly at school. My concentration I wasn't academically blessed, if I was honest. And that was in the forefront of my mind. That's what I was going to do, and that's what I was always going to do. So, um, yeah, it was a bit of blow, but again, like I said, it's probably made me stronger throughout my career, going through to now, really.
So what was it like though, that day? Can you remember it still? Is it something that still sort
Yeah.
of scars you a little bit?
Yeah, I can remember the journey up from, I live in Stanton, so we're about 45 minutes from Ipswich. And it was, yeah, I can remember vividly with my dad sort of saying, well, if it doesn't happen, what am I going to do? And then I can remember going into the office, and they just said, look, we're not going to offer you a YTS. And it was kind of from that moment, your stomach fell out,
Mm.
and you're just like, oh, I wasn't expecting it. So again, it was one of them. Wasn't a great feeling, but I think again, looking at it now, you get these setbacks, and they just make you more determined. You can either wilt under it and fall away, or you can sort of rise to the challenge and knuckle down and do something else.
So what was it with the football side of it though? I mean, how hard was that then to sort of pick your head up and maybe go and look for something different, maybe something else in the pro game or
Yeah.
sort of go into the amateur game? How difficult was that? Because I know I've had, I've managed sort of youth teams, and you've had players that have come dropped out of Spurs. It's taken them sort of 6 months
Mm.
sort of get it completely out of the system before you see what type of player that player is. I mean, how difficult is that at 16 to whichever club? I mean, you can tell us where you went from there, but how difficult was that to still keep that love for football?
I think I think it's a lot to do with who you've got around you. I mean, it was a particularly difficult time for me because my dad had lost his wife as well as we'd
Mm.
lost our mum. So it was difficult, but my dad was still prepared to back me and let me go and explore. I went off to Scunthorpe, and then I went to Colchester as well. And I was sort of left there for sort of a week at a time, and that was again a different experience for me to be away. And it wasn't particularly easy at that point in time because I knew, my two older brothers were suffering as well, and so it was really difficult to mentally get my head around it, if I was honest.
Mm.
And in the end, I just wanted to come home. I just wanted to have home comforts. But I think again, you hear a lot of different stories, and I think you can sort of relate to all of them because so many people have got so many different backgrounds of maybe how they've come across disappointment. Um, but I came home and I just thought that I just wanted to go back to playing with my mates. I kind of missed what it was about. It had been so serious for so long, and the pressure again, as you built up over the years, was all building towards that one day where you get told yes or no. And I hadn't really prepared myself properly for a no.
Mm.
And I don't think anybody does really. It's one of them things that you see. I think it's probably even worse nowadays with how it seems with pressure is on and how parents seem to be so more tuned into to it. So yeah, I decided to come back to Bury St Edmunds and actually play for Bury Town as a 16-year-old.
Enjoyable. I mean, was that tough though? The first sort of season there, because of what had happened before, and you've sort of, and I don't mean this in a disrespect to Bury to Ritchie, but you know what I'm trying to say when you go from
Yeah.
special rates back into the amateur game, and maybe you're playing with players that are not as good as what you were playing with before. How difficult was that?
Well, listen, I went back and started playing for Bury Town under 18s to get more game time in to try and keep me topped up to see if I could go on any more trials or if I wouldn't even had the aspirations and hunger to do it. But then I started getting fed into Bury Town first team. But the level was really difficult at the under 18s in terms of it was too easy.
Hmm.
So the drop from there was mammoth. And then you got sort of propelled into the first team, and it was totally different. Like I said, it was sort of drip fed into there, and I was in one week, out another week. I was lucky enough that I had some friends that were doing the same. They had quite a good under 18s that should never have been competing at the under 18 level. They should because they were superior to what was in there. So kind of had a little bit of support with other people in there, but just to then be propelled into a men's dressing room at the same time, and I can't remember. They did put their arm around me. There were some good characters in there, but at the same time, it was quite tough as well.
Mm. Where were Berry's first team then? Were they step four then, or were they?
They were so what was called the Juicing League at the time. Um, so I would say that was step four-ish. But obviously, levels have all changed and
Yeah.
teams have changed. But it was again, we were, it was probably we were going down to the Tilburys and places like that. So um, from a young age, it was, you know, men's changing room was you either sort of decided you were going to step up or you weren't going to step up. And I think I still suffered, if I was honest, because kind of didn't hit a level there that I was happy with, and ended up struggling again probably for another 6 months to a year.
Mm. I think listening to what you're saying, you can see it in your feature when when you're remembering it as well. It was a tough time for you, but it must be a tough time for any youngsters now that are, that are in that position. I mean, especially now, if we move forward we'll come back to the story in a second, but with yourself being, involved in sort of a management team at Bury Town, do you then maybe see these young players and maybe they don't live up to what you expected at first? Do you sort of then think back to that time of what you went through to think, well, look, we know the talent's there, we just got to try and get it back out of them again?
Yeah, again, as a management team, and especially with Cole as well. Cole, he actually looks after. He's got some lodges that stay at his that are youth products at Ipswich. So again, he nurses them and gives some really good advice. And I think from my own experience as well, we've kind of really latched onto that, and we've had a couple of lads, like I said, that have fallen out. Well, one that's fallen out of the program completely that came into our squad halfway through the season, and then we've had some loanees as well, and we kind of put ourselves in their shoes again and try and make sure that we don't have the pitfalls that maybe I had or that Cole saw when his earlier days, and try and make sure that they're as well looked after and loved, but they're also given a little bit of a harsh reality at times without. It's more about the terminology and how you're spoken to these days than anything before. So again, we have tried to learn from it and make sure that we give them the best experience possible.
Yeah, yeah. So with yourself then, you're in the Bury side at what, 16, 17? I mean, talk us through that sort of first sort of season back for you. I mean, how did it go, and and moving forward?
I don't think it went particularly well because I was again, I was probably, without knowing it, but knowing it now, I was probably mentally struggling more than anything. And again, you kind of, because you've been in this system or this bubble for so long, I kind of missed out with a lot of friends. So I obviously just discovered going out as well, which obviously the two don't mix greatly. Um, so I then sort of took a little bit of time out, and I went and played for Walshamley Willows, and it again, it's weird how things coincide with each other. They had a manager going called Paul Smith, who was probably one of the best non-league strikers to not play league football.
Hmm.
And because he was local and he finished with Sudbury, he went in as Walsham manager, and he, for some reason, took me under his wing, and a friendship that actually has blossomed for over. We're still really good mates now. We're going away with each other this week. So I was probably lucky. I don't know, when something aligned, I needed somebody probably in it as a man manager. He wasn't known as his man management for a lot of people, but for me, he was absolutely superb at that time. So I gravitated more towards Walsham at that point, and ended up playing a lot of games there.
Mm. I mean, what was that like though? Because again, you're dropping down a little bit further as well. I mean, with his sort of stewardship, did it sort of get you through it?
Yeah, it kind of suited me very much at that point, because I felt like I could hit a consistency at that level, still being quite young, but I could physically cope with it as well. I wasn't physically blessed at that age, but I felt I could cope with that level. So I found a consistency, which again made me happy. I felt like I could then build build. I was still doing a lot personally to keep my fitness up and try and keep my levels, but as hard as you try, as soon as you fall out of that kind of system, it is particularly hard to carry on. Especially then, I had to find a sort of a job as well.
Mm.
But I felt incredibly blessed that again I'd fallen across this manager who cared about me and wanted to try and help me in all aspects of life, if I was honest. So it kind of worked quite well.
Mm. So how did the seasons go there? I mean, any memorable matches for you?
Yeah, we propelled ourselves really because so they were at SIL level, and we worked our way through SIL, and then we got into what was known as the Regions One, and then we got into what is Furlough Non-Prem now.
Hmm.
So we had we had years of success of promotions, and personally had some really good times, games that stuck out. We had Senior Cup finals against Needham Market, who were at the time again a bigger club. Mark Morsley was the manager there,
Him
and
again.
yeah, he's about everywhere, isn't he? So we sorry, just one second. So we he then I caught his eye um, at that particular point. So that's how the story progresses. Really, I had to get again. I had many a good time at Walsh. I mean, if you say about memorable matches, and again, there were just a lot of the lads there were lads that I'd known as well. So yeah, it's too many nights out and bus journeys to remember where it got particularly messy after we'd won something, or yeah, just really good times. But anyway, Mark then took a liking to my playing style and wanted me at Needham Market.
So what year was that then? What year did you go over to Needham Market with Mark?
Oh, it's talking 2009, 10 maybe. Think, yeah, I'm not so good on my dates, if I'm honest, from much. It's a bit of a blur, but
So where were Needham then?
so Needham were then they were what would have been Furlough Num, what is now Furlough Num Prem, so one below, so it'd been step five.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so again, I went over to there, and I liked what Mark had to say. He's you know speaks really well, made you feel as a player $1 million,
Mm.
and I just thought I'd done my time. Obviously, at the level I had at the time, I wanted to, because of how it had been in my life, wanted to push myself back up to as high as possible.
Mm.
So I had a really good time there. Unfortunately, Mark then left at the end of the season and went to Sudbury. Um, it was actually Danny Laws that then came in after that, and I've got a lot of time for Danny as well. But when I was 17, Danny Laws had started up the program at Bury College, which was
Hmm.
one of the first around here. So you're doing the football and you're learning at the same time. But at that time, when like I said to you before, when I came out of the Ipswich, kind of just thought I need to get my head down. I wanted to get a job and earn some money. So I got a job at the same place that I'm still at now. Um, and this college scheme come up, and I decided to turn it down. And Danny was running that, and I think I was kind of one of the ones he really wanted to get in because of obviously the coaching and everything I'd had before. There wasn't many in the area that had been in Ipswich for as long as I had, and I thought I was probably maybe his headline act at the time, that then decided to turn it down for probably for the right and wrong reasons. I didn't want to go into college and then have a part-time job at night. It wasn't something I wanted to do. Um, so I kind of went in a different route, as obviously trying to play and earn some money and then get a job rather than go into some sort of a college scheme. So, anyways, when Danny took over from when Mark left, I think we still had a little bit between us, if I was honest, where I'd probably said no, and it didn't feel right for me. So I ended up going back to Walsham, and again having some really good years there before I moved on to Mildenhall Town.
What was that like then moving, moving back to Walsham? I mean, was that an interesting thing again? You're going sort of from Needham then to Walsham. I mean, were Walsham still step five at the time, or were they?
Yeah, they were. They kind of like I say this, they maintained where they were, which was superb for the club at that level because they're only, let's be fair, they're only in a village, but their facilities are far beyond that. So I was welcomed with open arms, if I was honest. It was, like a prodigal son coming back. It felt, the manager was still the same manager, and it was quite an easy transition for me. I think I was there a year and a half before Mildenhall then had got some team together at the time and really were going for it. And, again, they no bones about it. It was the same with Needham Market. They could pay me more money at the time, and it was something that, as well as playing for a better team, albeit all in the same league. So I wanted to, I know what a lot of non-league lads say that the money's not important, but it comes into every conversation, especially as a manager, and it plays probably 95% of it. So yeah, I went and did that, and then had a thoroughly enjoyable time there for sort of a year and a half. Met another group of lads like I did at Needham that
Mm.
I've stayed in contact with still now. And it was a great experience, really good experience with some incredibly gifted players as well.
Mm. So I mean, any more trophies in that time, the second time round, or was it just because was you just there, just
None that stood out, I don't think. I haven't been blessed actually, apart from winning two league, two or three league titles with Walsham, with going anywhere and actually
Mm.
winning anything, which is probably why when I started on the management journey that I was desperate for that was something that I wanted to achieve.
Mm.
So yeah, anyway, I ended up at Mildenhall, ended up going back to Walsham again for a third stint, and that was my final stint really until I retired.
So back, so you was at Walsham, and then from there to Milden Hall.
Yeah, so I when I went back from Needham to Walsham, I spent a year and a half at Walsham, then went off to Mildenhall, and then came back, and then kind of told myself that was it. Now I just wanted to rack up as many appearances and do as well as I could for my local club, and
Mm.
yeah, just try and make it a good as experience as I could.
Where were Milden Hall at the time? Were they
So
step
they were saying they were the same as at
five?
Walsham, but they again they'd amassed such a good squad.
Mm.
I wanted to be part of it. Um, and again, they were such a talented group
Mm.
with people with similar stories, if I'm honest to myself. Um, but I just wanted to go and try it. If it was something that they'd sort of done their due diligence on me and made me feel at ease. So it's something I wanted to go and have a look at. And again, it proved to be a good move. I learned a lot as well.
Mm. So with that, then, was it a situation at any time where you sort of trying to do your badges or doing any sort of coaching as such, thinking that that's what the next step would be?
Yeah, yeah, it was actually. So when I went back to Walsham for the third time, I then started to do my coaching badges. Then I can remember telling the manager Paul Smith at the time that I needed to take a weekend off because I was doing my coaching badges, and I was probably about 30 at that point. Maybe it might have been a bit earlier than that, but it was something that always interested me, if I was
Mm.
honest. And I got, for some reason, I always looked deeper than what I needed to at tactics, at what other people were doing. And I've got obviously not, don't want to name drop, but one of my best friends is James Scowcroft.
Hmm.
He's played at Ipswich, Crystal Palace, Leicester, Coventry, and he's always been quite tactical as well. So when we're together, we probably bore most people to death, but we literally just talk even more so now. But we talk football even then, and it is something. I don't know really. It was weird how it's sort of something that I always felt. I can remember even saying when I was 25, it was when I'm finished, I'd definitely be a manager.
Mm. So I mean, from there then, so you leave and you start doing your badges. So what was your first? How long was it between sort of retiring and hanging up the boots to actually sort of coming into a coach manager role?
Yeah, no, when I had my first child at 34, I decided that I was obviously going to slow down. I was playing less games naturally. So I then became assistant manager at Walsham under Paul Smith at the time. That was an easy transition. What I thought would be an easy transition actually, but it wasn't at all. I was nowhere near ready mentally or tactical wise to be doing that position. So I ended up, because a lot of the people still in the team um, were my friends because I played with them. So I ended up blowing my lid. I thought that was the way to try and get the best out of people. I can remember one coming together when I was fuming, and I come together head to head in the chamber with one of my friends who I'd played with for a long time, and it was then I thought this something in my head. I was just like, this isn't right.
Mm.
It wasn't how it should be. So I walked away from it and just said, look, I can't. I'm not ready. I don't think I'm tactically ready. I don't think I'm mentally ready to do it. So I literally walked away and thought, crumbs, what am I going to do now? I've been involved with football for all this time. I was 34 years old, and I think my wife at the time, yeah, she's my wife now, but she was my girlfriend at the time. Thought, she's going to have me. That's it. It's come to an end, and I'll be one of these people that will go shopping on a Saturday afternoon, or cut the hedge, or wash the car, or do family things. But it soon yearned inside me that I couldn't do without it.
Yeah.
So I was lucky enough that James Scowcroft was working at Leicester as a scout at the time. He said to me that come and do some games, come and watch some games for me. You'll learn an awful lot. You'll meet a whole pool of different new people. So I went and did that for 6 months, which was really enlightening, like the reporting, how you report after a game, what you're looking for. It just gave me a different, spectrum on the whole thing, really. Again, how going back to that environment that I was then part of all them years ago, how ruthless it is, how people that are in the game scouting, when a new face turns up and they sort of, that look at you, don't recognise, oh, who are you doing this for? You're doing it for Leicester, and even they feel, threatened by somebody new on the scene's sort of presence, and it's really weird. Really, it took me a little while to adjust to, because football's one of them sports where you don't have to have a certificate to go and be a scout.
Mm.
All about opinions. So people that think that they've got it all sewn up, when, like I said, they're dog eat dog, really. Especially if you then notice a talent and they've been after a talent for a while, and you can you can articulate yourself to parents better, and they decide that they'd rather speak to you than somebody else.
Mm.
So I did.
How long was it though before that sort of urge got more and more and more that you needed to get back in sort of coaching and
Yeah.
managing?
Well, it was kind of like, how long am I going to do this for? It was a balance again. I was going out on a Saturday at sort of 8 o'clock in the morning. If I was going down into London to watch games, I'd then typically jump onto a Premiership game or a Championship game in the afternoon as well, just to make it worthwhile. So it's kind of how long, longevity wise, could I do that? And then, to be fair, I had a phone call from two friends playing at Stowmarket Town that I'd known, and they said, look, we're halfway through the following season. We need a bit of experience. Would you be interested? The managers asked if you'd be interested in coming and playing. So my head was like, yeah, they were a level down from Walsham at the time. They were step 6. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. So I went and spoke to the manager, Rick Andrews, who's now become like one of my best friends as well. He's coming away with me this week as well. So So I suddenly realised I played, and there was some really good players in the team. They had Dev Cunningham. We had all sorts of lads that Jack Baker, lads that have played, Phil Weavers, Steve Holder would, they'd all played where higher than they needed to be, and they were playing at Stowmarket. So I went and joined in when I could. I still was doing the scouting in between because I wasn't sure which one really suited me.
Mhm.
And then Rick Andrews said to me, "Look, we're in for winning the league here. I know you play, but do you want to go and watch some?" There was Coggeshall in the league at the time as well. Would you mind going and doing a little bit on them? So kind of was trying to combine playing with scouting at Leicester and then trying to help Stowmarket at the same time. Stowmarket had ended up getting promoted. Another funny story was that when I played for Stowmarket, they had a game against Diss. That was probably one of my first games, and we won. I played reasonably well, I thought I had anyway, until I get a phone call the next day saying that the registration hadn't gone through and the 3 points, they hadn't got the
Oh,
3 points. So I actually thought that I would be the consequence of them not getting promoted, which would have been quite ironic. But they had to replay the game in the end, and we got the 3 points. But so yeah, finished that season. Stowmarket went up, and Rick Andrews then asked me in that summer to come on board and be his assistant manager, and it went from there really.
how long was you down at Stowmarket for? Did you take over the reins at
Yeah,
Stowmarket?
yeah. So we went from step six. They went step six, step five, and the story is quite well documented. We were lucky enough to have an incredibly top bloke coming called Tom Morley who put money in, which allowed the ground improvements to happen, the club to totally evolve. Obviously, helped us massively on the plan side with the budget as well. So with Rick as well, we went and got some of the best non-league players around. Um, we're doing it. We had a great FA Vars run over 2 seasons, and then COVID decided to throw its ugly head in the face of non-league football. And at the time, Rick was suffering with his mum. His mum hadn't got long to live, so he decided to step down, and then I took over as the manager. And we carried on steamrolling everybody. But obviously, when common sense prevailed, we got promoted into Step 4 football. So that was the highest the club had been.
Don't tell Paul Halsey that aware because he's still sort of like having nightmares about those 2 years.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's incredibly, again, everybody's got their own story to tell on COVID, but we kept going all the time with Zooms, and we were still in the FA Vars at the time, or Trophy, no, Trophy, and um, we were still able to play them games, but no league games, which was really weird because as we progressed, we were still like playing once every 3 weeks.
Mm.
Um, but again, naturally, everything comes to an end. Really, if I'm honest, there was a few issues at the club, um, and I was sort of between the chairman and Tom Morley, and at the time who was putting the money in, and um, stood on the sideline one day, and we were getting beat by Lowestoft 3-0. Well, it wasn't even the fact that we were getting beaten. Don't get me wrong, that was hurting at the same time. But I looked up at the sky and just thought, oh, I can't do this anymore. For whatever reason, it just eaten me up inside because of all the politics that was going on around it. And again, I probably felt again that we would think we were sitting third at the time, maybe. But I felt we should have been a little bit higher up. There's a little bit of pressure, and I just thought, no, I can't do this, and decided to jack in at the end of the game. That game really.
And what was that? What was it like? I mean, did doing something like that in football? Because you never know, where the next job's going to be, do you?
Ah,
Especially
you
these
don't.
days. So, I mean, what was that? How difficult was that to sort of chuck it in and then hope and pray that maybe something might come along for you to actually step into?
Yeah, I was incredibly emotional. If I was honest, I think I'd just been sucked into it too much. I think I was spending too much time, if I was honest, day in, day out. Um, it was just, emotionally just trying to keep everything on a level playing field, off the pitch and on the pitch. Um, I had some really good, I had some really good support. Like I said, the financial chap was really good.
Mm.
And he was honest, um, and it wasn't his fault at all. So it was difficult, mentally difficult, because as soon as I walked away, and again, Rick Andrews was really superb with this, that you could, at the time when you're in football, you think you've got some really good friends, and you're in contact day in, day out. There's WhatsApp groups going, but I'll tell you now, as soon as you walk away from that football club, that your phone more or less is cut off. It's like a blackout. You're obviously going to get a lot of barrage of messages to start off with, and to be fair, I did get an extreme amount of messages from all the non-league people saying congratulations, you've achieved so much. We had the highest attendances at Stowmarket. We've been the furthest they had in the FA Trophy. We scored the most amount of goals with the highest league position they'd ever had. So there was so many positives to come from it. Maybe it was a bit of a sigh of relief for other non-league clubs in and around our area, because we were pushing for quite a long time, and we were fortunate enough that we did pay more money than others. So maybe a sigh of relief, but yes, 2 or 3 days afterwards, believe me or not, that was difficult, because you then felt like you'd just been cut adrift.
Mm.
With you're out of the scene, you're sort of not surplus to requirements, so we say.
I mean, how long was it before you got back in the game? And are you one of these, coaches, managers that goes there and says, puts your name out there for jobs, etc., when you see them come up, or are you one of those ones that sort of says, "Well, look, I'm good enough. I'll wait for them to call me."
I think there's a fine balance, but I don't want I don't want it to come across arrogant in any way. And people say, as soon as you say that, that's gonna. It wasn't that. I went, and again, I had 4 months. I'd finished in the end of January, um, and there was kind of a build up with was certain other jobs coming up where my name was brought up, which is, felt proud that my name would have been in the mix for certain things. But Berry Town came up. They weren't probably doing as well as they should have done at the time, or Ben Chenery was at the club as manager, and I think he'd been there for 10 years and probably, you know become a little bit stale. So as soon as it came about that was a potential, my name was, because it was my local town, was thrown about a little bit, and I put myself forward for the job when they advertised it. I had an interview, and it was again after I'd had some really positive feedback from Alan Lee and Russell, the chairman. Obviously, there was this time lapse, and I'm like, well, if I ever have or haven't got it, so what's the thing? And anyway, it become very apparent that obviously Cole Scouse had been spoken to. And then I thought, well, if they're going for somebody of, although he didn't have management experience at the time, but they're going for somebody of his caliber, well, I better take the pecking order and just stay quiet. I was asked if I would then work with somebody, would I consider being an assistant manager? And I said that title wasn't massive for me, but I just wanted to see how we gelled and how we got on. But from the minute we met, we clicked really well. Hopefully, like I said, he could see what I could offer. I'd sort of been really good with connections within non-league in terms of players and managers, and it just seemed like a good fit. If I was honest, it seemed like, we needed I needed him and he needed me, and here we are 2 years later.
Net free team.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
talking about that, so we come full circle. I mean, what was that like? I mean, because you had the semi-final to start with against the Abbey, against my local side, and then you beat them quite comfortably, and then
yeah.
moved on to the final. What I want to ask about was this old average, and it always sticks in my mind that if I'd have done my research and seen that, I probably would have thought that the result was going to go the way it did, because the Abbey beat you twice, didn't they, during the season? So it was going to happen, wasn't it?
Not in our heads, I don't think. So again, I think our form in the last 6, 7 weeks have been Brentwood's have got stronger, and I think everybody else around, and everyone was dropping points for whatever reasons. And we looked at it a slightly different way, although we strengthened before the transfer deadline day. We felt like we could get some deals with that across the line that would work for the club and the player we would strengthen. So we obviously in the forward line we made sure that we had options if anyone was to pull up or push them a little bit harder. So when we were going into once we realised we had Waltham Abbey, it was for me it was a bit of a yeah, I didn't want to face Waltham Abbey if I was honest. Although our form against the top 5 teams, we had only beaten Felixstowe once at home. The rest we had lost to Brighton home and away. We had lost to Waltham Abbey, Brentwood, and like I say, only beat Felixstowe once. So it wasn't. I don't think whoever we'd have played, I'd have felt massively positive about.
Hmm.
But Waltham Abbey, I think that I like the manager, I like their setup, and both games where we played them, I felt they were really good in wide areas, which was a massive concern for me.
Hmm.
I know you said that we beat them easily, but it was, with all due respect, that it was 1-0 at half time, and we only scored dead on half time, and we were lucky enough that they hit the bar. And if that had gone in, I think it would have been a different game. And they are them fine moments. We've all seen them up and down the
Hmm.
football pyramid where you get a moment of luck and then it spins on its head. So yeah, it was a great moment to win a semi-final because, like I said to you earlier, I'd lost to Brentwood the year before with Bury, and then I'd lost to him 2 years previous at Stowmarket in the playoff as well. So even just to win a semi-final was good.
Hmm. So, I mean, you went on to the final on the Saturday. I mean, was it getting to a stage where you were thinking that extra time's coming here?
Yeah, me and Cole were literally talking about it 15 seconds before about our shape and bodies that we had sitting behind us and what we were seeing in front of us. So it was really that fine margins between what happened, and it was I thought Brighton Sea were good. I thought they were a real threat in the final third. They looked like they looked the fresher of us too.
Hmm.
Um, I think the willingness of the 2,200 crowd, most of them buried again, sucked it in a little bit and made a moment that will probably never be repeated at Bury happen.
And of course, if people don't know, it was a 94th minute winner to win the step four playoff final to go to step three. God, how long after the goal did the final whistle go?
Well, funny enough, it seemed like an age. I think it was another like 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Ref really milked his position, that's for sure. I think yeah, he was. To be fair, they were good, they were decent officials on the day, but there was a few incidents where it was stop, start, and we had people ready to jump the barriers and yeah, believe me, when that final whistle went, it was again, as I said to you before, showing respect to Brighton Sea bench and making sure we got over to shake their hand. And obviously at that time they don't really want to speak, and there's no words that are really. So it was a shake of the hand, and then yeah, total relief and madness all at the same time of people running on the pitch, us trying to reach our players, and me trying to reach my family at the same time as well.
So Ed Upson now going to be a Berry Town hero for the rest of his life.
I think so. Yeah, without doubt, he's first and foremost, he's an incredible guy. Again, played an awful amount of professional games. Um, He'd be a good one for this, probably from his point of coming out of football. He again adapting to coming out of pro football to come into a level of football and quit yourself as well. There's a lot of people that expect Ed to be 10 out of 10 every week, but he's Mr. Consistent. He sees things that no other people do, and that eclipsed on that 94th minute when the ball was rolled to him. It's rolled to him on his weaker foot. He's taken a really good touch and then slammed it in the top corner.
Hmm.
Uh,
I want to ask you a question away now because this is something that I heard, and this is the first time I've asked somebody this on this program because it was something I heard the other day, and it sort of rekindled memories of stuff from seasons ago. What, and I don't know if Berry did this, so if you did, I apologise for what I'm about to say. Do you feel in playoff football when it gets to the end of the season that no dual registered player should be allowed to play in either the semi-final or the final?
that's interesting you say that. Because Brighton, see, to be fair, they had the lad Collis who was at Needham, and then went back there. He was on the bench actually for the game against us. But I do think it's I can I don't know actually, Dave, how I feel about it because it been if you can make yourself stronger by doing it, fair play to you. But at the same time, we based ourselves on over the last 2 years of not changing the squad very much. So you get a unity, you get a bond. I think if you go and do that when you're going into them positions, does it start creating a little bit of unrest and you know the trust maybe goes? Whereas I feel like we had a massive amount of trust within our squad towards us and us towards them. And I think by doing what you've said can unsettle things. So yeah, this time it's worked for us, but I can see how it could work in favour of going the other way if you're doing it. But I don't totally agree with it.
Well, is it, literally last thing to finish off with? I want to give you a little quiz question, just to see if you know the answer to this, or you may not know the answer to this. Do you know who the player is that last year, was probably last year yesterday, was picking up the FA Vase trophy at Wembley this year? This year in 2 days, day after each other, he played and got beaten twice in the playoff semi-finals.
No.
I mean, it just shows you the difference between one year and another year, doesn't it? We picking
Yeah,
up
yeah,
a trophy at Wembley for Romford, scoring 2 goals in the Wembley final,
yeah.
and then he plays you on the
That's Sam nailed that.
that's it on the 29th, and he loses that, and he goes into the following day and plays for Barking and loses in the semi-final at Barking as well.
Wow, so contrasting years. The next thing you'll say to me, he'll be playing on that baller league on a Monday night and he's lost the final in that as well, just to top
Probably, I
his.
don't know if he's planning that or not. I don't know, but I mean, it was.
No, I'm aware of him. To be fair, yeah, he's a centre forward that I've kept an eye on. But he's yeah, unfortunately, last year had the year of his life, and this year's not so much.
Yeah, yeah, crazy, absolutely ridiculous. But listen, mate, we're really pleased for Berry Town and over the moon for you guys that you're going to finally get into that Step 3 league, and hopefully might see more of you if you're coming into the Summer League as well. So that'll be good fun as well. But from everybody else, a massive thank you for watching. Still a couple more episodes to go of My Life in Football this year, so please join us for that. But a massive thank you for you watching the series so far, and a massive thank you for Paul for joining us today. Until the next time. Good night.